Alright folks, well, welcome back to CB Rebuilds. Here we're working on the Willys truck, Resto-Mod Project. A little bit of luck, we were able to get this engine in this chassis. So this is a JK chassis, which is designed for a V6 engine, and we were using the 4.0 inline 6 engine. We got it to fit in here, and we've got it very, very close to where we want it. We got to fix the pitch of the engine, but that's going to be easy enough to fix once we start putting our motor mounts in. But we've got a really good idea where those are going to go. Had some assistance from my dad. He came down and helped me get this in here because it took a little bit of finagling, and it's a little bit more than one person can do by themselves. So I'm going to grab you guys and bring you in here to kind of show you where we are and what we had to do to get this engine in. Alright folks, so here we are on the passenger side. You can see that we removed the stock JK motor mount here. This is that motor mount. It goes in there, something like that. And you can see how far off we were going to be. So the JK has a different style mount, and you just kind of set it in from the top, and that's how you load the motor into this chassis. But you can see here that we were going to be too far forward with the engine. So we needed to remove this, and we will use the stock Cherokee motor mounts on the engine and the body side mount. We'll make a new piece of steel that goes in here to make it strong enough and get it centered where we want it. But right now we've got the engine very close to where we want it centered. So up here we've got this front cross member on the JK. We have a 3/8 inch piece of plywood in there as a spacer, just so that we don't get too close to the cross member. We should have enough clearance there that as long as we take the belt tension off, we can get the belt slid through on the side and slide out if we have to change an accessory belt on this without taking it apart. We should have decent access to get the alternator out, and it should go, you know, take the bolts loose, and we should be able to go back and down because there's lots of room right here underneath the frame rail. Over here, one of our biggest concerns was the power steering box reservoir to power steering box, power steering pump to power steering box clearance. We're going to raise that up just a little bit, but for the way it's strapped up right now, we can't get that lift. But when I weld the motor mounts in, we'll have enough lift out of it, because I'll make sure we sit high enough. We've got lots of clearance over here for the exhaust. In some of my earlier pictures of the last video, you can see we had the brake booster on here. The brake booster was from a JK, and it was really tight for us to get it all put in here together, at least when the brake booster was on. So we took the brake booster off. That's something I'll have to come back to later on, but we've got that figured out. And then if we slide underneath, we've got the temporary block of wood right here for the transmission motor mount, or transmission cross member mount. But we will come up with a way to get from here to up there. So I got a new motor or transmission mount ordered. The transmission mount on the Cherokee, all the studs broke off on it when I was trying to remove it because they were really rusty. But I'll go ahead and get a new mount. It should be here today, and then we can kind of get this figured out. You can see I did leave some space to get the transmission pan off inside the Jeep if I couldn't take the cross member down. But I think that procedure is going to be, you know, lift up just slightly on the transfer case, because it would get mounted right behind the transmission. I lift up slightly with a jack, and then remove the cross member here and allow you to do that service if you wanted to do that in the Jeep, because right now if you pulled the drain plug it would go all over the cross member. And I'm not really worried about the exhaust, but it's right there, and we probably can get it routed up and over the cross member and out to the back of the truck here. So I think that's my status right now. So I'm going to cut up some motor mount mounts so I can weld them to the frame, and then we'll get the motor mounts on. Alright, so I got the motor pulled out. It wasn't too bad, but what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and remove all of this old motor mount out of here, try to ground flat, and get prepped for where we're going to be putting our new motor mount pieces. So we'll go ahead and get those put in, and then we should be alright. I think we're going to be looking pretty good. We've got a little bit of adjustment here. On this motor mount, we've got a slot, so we should be able to, you know, kind of move the engine back and forth to get it aligned. And then over here on this motor mount, it is a solid one. So between that, we'll, this is what our motor mount will be. It'll be 3/16 square tube. We're just going to mount it right here, and then we'll drill some holes here and here for the Cherokee style motor mounts, and we'll make those a little bit bigger than they maybe need to be right this second, till we get it all slid back in, and then we'll be able to give them some fasteners, some bolts, and we'll be able to get this thing put together. I'd really like to have this engine sitting in here, and I'd like to keep working on getting this thing started. Again, you know, got a little more time here with the COVID-19 crisis. So let's try to get some work done and make some progress on this truck. Alright, so got this motor mount all cleaned down really nice. Got it pretty much flush off everywhere. So just got to do the other side here, and then we'll be ready to start welding in some new motor mounts. Alright folks, let me show you how I'm going to get this lined up the way that I think it should be lined up. So I took my straight edge and I've clamped it onto my motor mount piece. Motor mount piece is a 2x2 square with a 3/16 wall. I know the center line needs to be in line with the back edge of this shock tower here. So my plan is to just get this laid in here and then grab a level, and I'm going to level it out both ways. So get this level that way, and I'll probably throw a tack weld on it, and then I'm going to lay it this way, and then I'll also throw a little bit of a tack there, Make sure, again, take the clamp off, make sure it's all square, ready to go, and then I'm going to burn it in. I went out and measured the Cherokee chassis because I haven't gotten rid of it. And basically, this motor mount is 2 inches further back than the driver's side. So I think what I'm going to do is take and come up with a 2x something to put across there and get them lined up together. Then before I weld them fully in, and I'll check the distance between the mounts because I can go out there and measure that again before I burn this all in and get stuck with it. But I'm not real worried about trying to do a dry fit of it with the engine and tacks. I really believe with as much adjustment as I have in the system that I'm going to be able to get this to work. So I guess the next thing here is I've just got this one ground and then sprayed down with weld-through primer. So I'm going to use the weld-through primer on the other side here. Just put a little coat of that over the patch where I already ground. So I ground off the black paint, ground it down to bare metal, and then I put the zinc primer over it. That way when I go and put the welder to it, it'll weld right through, and then we also have some protection after we're done welding. So that's going to be next. Get those tacked in there, get it all measured up, and we'll see what we can do. Alright folks, well our package from Rock Auto showed up with our mounts and some other goodies, so let's just check out what's in here. Alright, so since we don't know a ton about this Jeep, I got a few different things. One of the things I got is the Velcro valve cover gasket. These 6 cylinders are really bad about having valve cover gasket leaks, so I got the Velcro one to get that sealed up. This box looks a little rough, but this is the automatic transmission service kit. So it's got the filter and the gasket, so you can drop the transmission pan and get it changed. Here we got our transmission mount, which is what I was waiting on to build the rear transmission mount, so we've got that. We also have a water pump and an oil filter. Since we pierced our other one, it's probably a good time to go ahead and change on it. So before we get to running this Jeep very much, I was going to change the filter anyways, but we've got a new one here. Just need to come up with some oil and get the oil pan drained. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go take this mount, get it mounted to the transmission, and then come up with a way to mount from the cross member to the transmission so we can get that solid. Right now the engine's sitting in here on the front engine mounts, but it's sitting on a block of wood in the rear, and I'd like to get it onto a rubber mount. So if we can get that done, then we can have the whole engine and transmission mounted, and we can move forward and get ready to hook all the wiring back up before we start condensing the wiring circuits. So hang tight, we'll get this put on and we'll start working on a mount for the transmission. Alright folks, it's several hours later. Had some other stuff going on, but just wanted to show you, we got the motor mount in here. We're sitting on the nice Cherokee factory rubber mount on this side, and again over here, and then let me take you underneath. So underneath here, I don't know if you'll be able to see. Okay. So underneath here, I made this fancy, I don't know, Z bracket with some spacers against the cross member, and bolts up to the Cherokee style transmission mount right there. So now we've got the transmission, the transfer case, pretty much everything hooked back up, and our next big project here is going to be getting it started the way the harness was, and then we will start parsing down the harness to just what we need. So we'll see what we get done here in the next day.